Good evening, gentlemen. It's a wonderful weather. I'm going to talk to you now on an issue which concerns all of us. Many people have asked me about China, and the question they have in their mind is, will China go the way of the Soviet Union? Will it break up into a number of states? Or will China go and become the biggest power in the world and leave America behind? Gentlemen, this is not an easy question to answer. But before I answer this question, I'm going to take you to a bit of history of China. Now, China has got a very ancient history, nearly 4,000 years. But during this entire period, democracy was unknown to the Chinese. They didn't know what democracy is. They only knew autocracy. Earlier, they had the various Chinese dynasties, the Qing dynasty, the Ming dynasty, and they were all autocrats. Then was the era of the warlords who were also all autocrats. And then came the revolution led by Dr. Sun Yat sen, and that also ushered in a totalitarian culture. His successor was General Chiang Kai shek, who represents the Kuomintang. And when the Kuomintang was the dominating force in China, there was no democracy. It was again an autocracy. And after the defeat of Chiang Kai shek, when he ran away to Formosa, despite all the help which the Americans could give him, the next thing that happened was that Mao Zedong came into power, and he, of course, didn't understand democracy as well. So, democracy doesn't exist in China. They don't know what democracy is. All they know is an authoritarian rule, whether it is by the Ming, Qing, any dynasty, or the Communist Party, or the Kuomintang Party, the Nationalist Party, anything. So, gentlemen, with this background, the question is that if at any stage the strings are loosened, there is every chance that the country will collapse. This is precisely what happened to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was great guns, and when we were studying in school and college, we could never imagine that the Soviet Union would collapse. It was something like a monolith structure, and it was the rival to America. But then, within 2 years of the end of the Afghan war, the Soviet Union fell like a pack of cards, broke into 18 states. It's a sad occurrence, and communism had a big hand to play in it because communism destroyed not only the Tsarist Empire but also the Soviet state and reduced Russia from a global power to a regional power. ये बात सोचने वाली है. Second point जो मैं करना चाहता हूँ, now this is regarding China. Now China is the second biggest economy in the world. इसमें कोई शक नहीं है. Their military is very potent. पर अगर आप उनकी ट्रेडिशन देखें, ये ऑटोक्रेसी है. And after all, you should not forget that when some people asked for democracy, there was a massacre in the Tiananmen Square, and मेरी estimate है कि about 4 से 10 हज़ार Chinese students को गोली से उड़ा दिया गया. They were shot dead. And the Chinese also brought in tanks and everything, and they crushed the movement for democracy. Now, question ये है कि times have changed. See, earlier when the Ming, Qing और ये सब राज करते थे, it was a totalitarian state, and the people were very docile and they listened to whatever the rulers were saying. But times are changing. You see, there is the internet. People are able to see what is happening, and there are more aspirations which are coming up. And the Communist Party, which is trying to steer China forward, is itself, I think, confused. They are trying to follow a dual system. They have done away with the Stalinist doctrine of socialism, and now they are trying to mix capitalism with totalitarianism. मेरे ख्याल में this is not going to succeed, and historically such things always fail. Germans ने try किया, Nazis tried it. They had a form of socialism, that is, the Nazi party was the nationalist socialism, and they were trying to amalgamate it with the private industry. Ultimately, they collapsed. So, gentlemen, this is the start of my talk. Secondly, China has got multifarious problems of ethnic problems, religious problems. I think the religious problem जो है हम overlook करते हैं, but the fact is the Chinese have had a religious problem always. If you remember, history tells us कि 1900 में जब बॉक्सर rebellion शुरू हुआ चाइना में, it was fueled by the Dowager, the Empress of China, and it was against the Christian missionaries. Basically, attack जो था वो Christian missionaries के against था. They burnt churches, killed Christians because they felt that Christianity is an alien faith. Of course, the revolution was crushed by the help of the Indian troops, particularly जो हमारे पंजाब troops वहाँ गए थे. They crushed this Boxer rebellion. Even after this Kuomintang went away, Mao Zedong came, religion became the anathema, rather the opium of the people, and the Chinese began to believe in a godless society. I will say not the Chinese, but the Communist Party started enforcing it. But China का बहुत strong tradition है of Buddhism and Confucianism, and obviously the religion could not be taken away from the Chinese. So China is trying to break religion. That is their first problem. Why they should do it? I mean, I have not really been able to come up with a rational explanation as to why they should want to do away with the religion. They don't want to give religion any importance. Maybe they believe in what Karl Marx said when he said that religion is the opium of the people. Arey bhai, this is all right to talk something like this, but it is nothing like opium of the people. ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है. And let's not talk all this nonsense. So anyway, and secondly, there is a ethnic problem in China. Ethnic problem जैसे इंडिया में भी है, बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है इंडिया में. And वो प्रॉब्लम जब तक इंडिया सॉल्व नहीं करेगा, इंडिया cannot move forward. I will discuss the Indian ethnic problem a little later in my other video. The moment I'll tell you that China has got an ethnic problem which is of big proportion. Large areas of China are hostile to the mainland. That is, the mainland means the Han dynasty which is ruling China. सबसे पहले अब देखिए तिब्बत है. तिब्बत is a Buddhist state, पर चाइना ने वहाँ enforce किया है a form of godless society. ऑफ कोर्स डेवलपमेंट हुआ है, बहुत से फॉरेनर गए हैं और वो शोर मचा रहे हैं कि चाइना में बहुत डेवलपमेंट हो गया है. वेरी नाइस, आई एम वेरी हैप्पी विद इट दैट उनका प्रोग्रेस हो गया चाइना का. बट द फैक्ट रिमेन्स जेंटलमैन दैट ओवरऑल द तिब्बतन पीपल आर नॉट हैप्पी. नाउ तिब्बतन पीपल वर बेसिकली हैविंग Buddhism as their culture, and they believed in a certain sense of reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, and Chinese forced the Dalai Lama to run away. In fact, I think in 1959, when Dalai Lama ran away from Lhasa, there was a plan to capture him, take him to China, and maybe execute him. There is a good possibility. But this plan was leaked to the uh, Dalai Lama, and he ran away to India. And Nehru, for once, got up from his sick bed, showed some spunk, and gave asylum to the Dalai Lama. So the Tibetans are restive. And once the present Dalai Lama dies, I think is going to be a big problem in Tibet for China, because Chinese are not going to allow a Dalai Lama born outside Tibet, while the Tibetans, who are almost millions of them in India and the world over, are not going to accept a Dalai Lama which will be fostered by the Chinese. So this state is going to be in a state of ferment. And though the Chinese have a very massive military force there, but when the population is restive, anything can happen. आगे देखिए क्या है. Then north we have got Xinjiang. Xinjiang is another province which is very very restive. और ये दोनों province जो तिब्बत है और Xinjiang है, they are constituting half the land mass of China. Now, as far as Xinjiang is concerned, it is populated by Uyghur Muslims. These Muslims are of Mongol stock, but they are Islamic. But unfortunately, the Islamic world doesn't support them. आई मीन ये तो इस्लाम के जो लीडर्स हैं टर्की के या सऊदी अरेबिया के यही एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं कि these people are so much bothered about Muslims in India who are very well off, पर जहाँ तक यूइगर और सिनकियांग के मुस्लिम्स हैं दे आर नॉट बॉदर्ड अबाउट देम. और वहाँ क्या हाल चल रहा है आप देखिए. what is the biggest thing happening there is that they have done away with all the processions of Islam. Burqa is banned, and the fast of Ramadan is banned, as it is bad for the health and also for the workforce. In fact, Muslims are almost debarred from praying 5 times a day because they feel that this is spoiling the work culture. That is, when you're doing your work and you start doing prayer 5 times, they say that the output of work goes down. May be correct, may not be correct. I have nothing to say about it, but this is what is happening there. And now the Uyghurs have been reduced to a minority because more and more hard Chinese have come there and are settling down there. And मेरी खबर के अनुसार तकरीबन 2 लाख मुस्लिम्स जो हैं चाइना के उइगर प्रोविंस में दे आर पुट इन कंसंट्रेशन कैंप्स, एक तरीके से जिनको वो वर्ड यूज करते हैं करेक्शन कैंप्स. एंड दीज करेक्शन कैंप्स they are supposed to be brainwashed about Mao Zedong and communism and all that, you know. But a lot of women have been left single, or इनको जो Chinese है, they are going and marrying them, having children from them, and they are trying to change the demography of the region. पर एक कहावत है, rather I would say there is a book written by Rumer Gordon which says thus far and no further. So मेरे ख्याल में Chinese have reached the end of the road as far as Xinjiang is concerned, and ultimately something drastic is going to happen. चाइना के और भी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम चल रही है बिकॉज जो रेनिगेट प्रोविंस है चाइना का दैट इज ताइवान, एंड ताइवान हैज गॉन एंड डिक्लेयर्ड इटसेल्फ एज एन इंडिपेंडेंट स्टेट. पर अच्छी बात यह है कि दे हैव मेड लॉट ऑफ इकोनॉमिक प्रोग्रेस, एंड चाइना इज वन ऑफ ताइवान इज वन ऑफ द रिचेस्ट कंट्रीज इन द वर्ल्ड. और चाइना वांट्स इट बैक, पर मिलिट्री फोर्स नहीं है उसको कैप्चर करने के लिए. Americans will not allow it, at least at the moment. I do not know what's going to happen later on, or maybe 5 years down the line. But this picture of Taiwan being a prosperous state is spreading in China, and they are wondering why we are not that prosperous. And China has had some harebrained schemes, and these have brought the Chinese economy down. They may be the second biggest economy, but if you remember, Nikita Khrushchev का डाउनफॉल कैसे हुआ था? How did he have the downfall? He made a plan to grow wheat in the Siberian areas, and he brought in a lot of specialists, you know, who told him, well, we can grow wheat. Ultimately, millions of rubles were spent, and the crops could not be grown in Siberia because the climate there is extreme. The same thing is going to happen in China. The Chinese are of the view that they will be able to integrate capitalism along with the communist theory, but in the long run, it's not going to work. And the Chinese economy is now floundering also because they went in like Khrushchev in making mega cities. I believe they made almost 100 cities, you know, with a lot of people all around, you know, big buildings, constructions, this thing, that thing. And net result is that those have become ghost towns now. There's nobody to buy them. And at least $2 trillion have been wasted in these ghost cities. So all this is going to tell on China. Secondly, China is not self-sufficient in food. That's another very important point. And a lot of rice is being exported from India to China. China's military also is suspect. They haven't fought a war for the last 44 years, if I remember correctly. And I don't think they have the battle experience. And fighting a war, I mean, just sitting on the bunker and just doing practice firing is quite different when you are doing live firing. So China's industry also is on a very shaky wicket. They've lost in the housing scams, and now they are also going against the big capitalists which exist in Chinese society, like the owner of Alibaba. He has been cut to size and told that you will have to tailor yourself as per Chinese philosophy, that is the communist philosophy. Now, what is communist philosophy? Nobody knows, not even in China. So, there is an undercurrent in China of resentment, the way I see it. In fact, that resentment came to the fore when the Chinese suppressed the people during the COVID crisis. So, gentlemen, China is not all honky dory. China has got a lot of internal problems, and their economy can crack any time because it is an economy that is built on foreign capital. The Americans, the big fools that they are, went and deposited millions of dollars into China, brought in the technology thinking we'll earn money. There's a very short sighted way of looking, but now they have realized that they've done a foolish thing and they're trying to back out. Many countries are leaving China, companies are leaving China. So the question is, what happens next? I mean, it's not something that's going to happen in one day, but something in a decade or so, you will watch the results happening. I think the Chinese could be heading for some form of breakup or a change, and that is something which is inevitable. It is the march of history, and I do not think China has the capacity or the capability to replace America anywhere in the world. Gentlemen, I think I'll close now. These are my views. I will request you to subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, come back for more. And do not forget to subscribe. That is very important. Goodbye and God bless.